Hello, welcome. This is the Monday class. Today we're going to talk about tables, tuples, and things you can do with functions. Sorry, lists. So list functions. So first of all, a quick review about if statements. These are your comparison operators. For equal to, when you're comparing whether something's equal, you have to use two equal signs. Not equal to uses like an exclamation mark and an equal sign. If you want to use the and operator, then both of them must be true in order for it to be true. And then for or, it's just at least one of them has to be true. Get that out of the way so that we can get on with today's lesson. So first of all, a table is just a list of values. So think of it as what the name is. It's a list. So for lists, you can create them like so. You can create them just like a variable. Like for example, if we wanted to name our list um, list one. So what you do is you name your list equal sign, then you use square brackets like so. This is what's called an empty list. There's nothing in the list. If you put stuff in the list, you can put anything you want. You could put strings, you can put integers, you can put booleans if you wanted to. And you can put any mixture of them, so they don't have to be the same data type. You can have a list of strings followed by numbers, right? It's all okay. Or you can put Boolean in there if you want to. But there's no limit to what you can put in a string in terms of data types. And you can also put lists in a list. So you put another list in the list if you wanted to. But at this point, there is no need. So that's the list. We'll start with a list of strings. Hello. Okay. So next we can combine lists. Like for example, if we have another list, again, same thing. When we're creating a variable, same things with lists. So same rules apply. It's just creating a variable, but that variable is many values long, basically. Just think of it that way. You're just creating another variable. And sure, we'll do that. So what we can do is we can concatenate it just like strings. You can combine lists. So for example, we can print list one plus list two. If we run that, you see we'll print out a list with list one and then list two. So hello, then bye, then goodbye, then later. So plus sign concatenation, similar to strings, same thing. You can also put a comma if you want. Very similar. Okay. So that's concatenation, it's combining a list. So now let's talk about indices. So indices are just the position of an element. An element is the thing in the list. So back to our list, let's use a list of numbers. So nums equals 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, so indices are, so these numbers are values. We call them elements. These are elements in the list, and indices are the position in the list. So something that new programmers might have a hard time remembering is that actually the first thing in a list, it has indexed 0. So the 0 matches with that. So the first element has an index 0. The element with an index 1 is actually the second element, and so on. So index 2 is the third element, index 3 is the fourth element, and so on. So just keep that in mind. It starts at 0. Okay, it starts at 0, even though we might say it's the first element. It starts at 0. The indices start at 0. And you can get a certain value. So actually, this might not have been the greatest example. Let's do something like we can get a certain value in the list if we know its index. So all we have to do a print statement here. You take the name of the list, and then in square brackets right next to that list, the name of the list, you'll put in the index. So index goes in here. For example, if we want this string, the number 2, we'll see that this is the second element in the list, which means it has an index 1. Because again, the first element has index 0, the second element has index 1. So if we want the second element, we actually need index 1. So here, if we print, it will give us 2. 2 is the second element in the list, but has an index of 1. And again, you can get the value, the element in the list at index 1 using the name of the list, square brackets, and then the index inside of those square brackets. So this is how you get something in a list. Okay, so now let's talk about some ways you can alter a list. So same thing with variables, you can just overwrite them. So if we did nums and then we created a new one, like 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, it would just overwrite all the values in here. Well, another thing we could do is we can add things to the list or subtract things from the list using these. So we use the name of the list. We can use the append function, and then something that we want to add, like 6, for example. So what this does, append will add something to the end of a list. So append adds something to the end of the list. So if we print nums afterwards, so you have this list, you're going to add the string 6 to the end of it, and we're going to print it, see, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 6 got added to the end of the list. Append adds something to the end of the list. So if you want to add something down at the end, maybe in the middle or in the first element, the first index, we can use the insert. So the insert you can also use to add something to the end of the list, but it's a lot easier just to use append if you're just adding something to the end. So insert, what it needs is it needs two things. It first needs the index at which you're going to add that to, and also what you're going to add. So for example, if we have the string hello and we want it to be at index 2, for example, so it's going to replace 3. So we want it to say hello, and it looks like that. So we want hello to be in index 2. It's going to replace 3. Everything else gets pushed to the right. So it's going to become index 2. Everything else after index 2 gets pushed to the right. So all we need to do is give it the index at which we want it to be at, which is 2, comma, and then what you want to enter at index 2. So this is the output we want. So let's delete that again. So that was what it used to be. Delete that. Press run. You'll see 1, 2, and then at index 2, which again, indices start at 0, so 0, 1, 2, 2. So at index 2, we have the string hello, and then everything else, 3, 4, 5, got pushed to the right. So that's the insert function. So insert, you can insert it anywhere. You can also insert it at the beginning, you can insert it at the very end, but you can insert it at any point inside that table, that list. As opposed to the append, which you can only add to the end. Okay, next up is pop. What that does is it's going to remove something from the list. So pop, you can either just put parentheses, nothing in it. What that's going to do is it's going to default to the last item in the list. So 5 is going to be removed. So we firstly print nums run. You'll see that it used to have 5. The last element in the list was 5 gets removed. And also hello, that's from the last run. But here, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the last element got removed. So that's what pop does. If you put in an index, it's going to remove the value at that index. So for example, if we want to remove 4, for example, the string 4 is at index 3, because again, indices start at 0. So 0, 1, 2, 3. So if we remove or pop the element at index 3, we should expect it to say 1, 2, 3, 5. 1, 2, 3, 5. Indeed, the element, the string 4, which is at index 3, just got removed. As opposed to the function remove, or should I say method, it's actually called a method. But what remove does is it removes something, it removes a specific element. So you don't give it an index, you give it the element that you want to remove. Like say we want to remove the string, I guess we'll do 2 for now. 2. We want to remove the string 2 from our list. Press run, you'll see that the first in the first 2 that they encountered gets removed. In this case, there was only 1, 2, but 1, then 6 to 3, 4, 5. Remove, you tell it what to remove, and it's going to remove it. For pop, you have to tell it what index you want it to remove at. So different uses depends on what you have and what you want it to do. Awesome. Okay. So that's pretty much all the things you can do to alter a list. Some other things that you'll need to know is to find the list of the length of a list. What you can do is use len, and then parentheses around the name of the list. This will return the length of the list. How many elements are in the list? You'll see it's going to return an integer. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 elements in this list. If we get the length of nums, it's going to return 5. So that's the length function method. And yeah, that's pretty much all. And then one more thing about tuples, it's not on the homework or anything, but what a tuple is, it's basically a list, except you can't do anything to it. It's just view only. So a tuple is just parentheses instead of square brackets, and you can put anything in it just like you can a list. Below, I, oh wait, let's print that out. Print nums, right? It's going to print out your tuple. The only issue with that is you can't do anything with it. You can't take anything out of the tuple. You can't add anything to the tuple. You can't alter it in any way. So you might use a tuple when you don't want information to be changed and it's view only, as opposed to a list, which again, you can change. You can use append, you can use insert, you can use pop, you can use remove. So these are the notes for today. So again, creating a list, same thing as creating a variable, except you're going to use square brackets instead of nothing. And concatenation, you're going to use a plus sign. There are other ways, there are unions and stuff. We're not going to really talk about those because it's a bit too advanced. And for list indices, again, it's just the name of the list and then square brackets, and then inside the square brackets is the index at which you're going to get which element you want. And then again, something you're gonna need to remember. This is not something Python, like it's not a Python only problem. It's a problem with a lot of other languages as well. It's that indices start at 0. The first element has an index of 0, and it does throw counting a bit off, but it is what it is. Append, you have the name of the list, dot append, and then inside parentheses, you have the item that you want to add, and that adds it to the end of the list. And then insert, you have to give it 2 things. The first thing you give it is a number, the index, and the second one, this is supposed to be item. So insert, you have the index at which you're going to insert, and then an item. the thing you're going to insert at the index, index in the list. And again, once you insert something at a specific index, everything else gets pushed to the right. And then pop, it will remove something at a specific index. If you don't give it an index, it's going to automatically remove something from the end. And list.remove, you give it the item, so it could be a string. You give it an item, and it's going to remove that item from the list. So those are the things that you're going to need for today's homework. And yeah, bye.